make a tremendous amount of money and keep buying real estate responsibly, prudently. Make sure the numbers work. Make sure you understand the real estate. And that's truly how you make the game. But step one is you have to have a skill set to make a tremendous amount of money. And that's what I've done.
All right. Hello, everybody. Grady Paulson, the American Agency. Beyond excited to have John Pineda on today with us. He is coming out of Florida, Orlando, Florida. And John's story is unique, and that's okay, because you have to have unique people inside of opportunities for the rest of us to have something to aspire to. And what John has accomplished in his first year, is it possible? Could any of you do it? Heck yeah, you could. Could you supersede what he's done? Of course you could. You got to put your mind to it. You got to work really hard. And yeah, you've got a blueprint to follow. But in John's first year with us, last year in 2024, he personally issue paid double Hall of Fame. 900,000 issue paid in personal production. Got the recruiting bug, got the business building bug, and saw his future here as something that he could build a massive insurance agency and set out. And at present is sitting on a $1.2 million monthly issue paid insurance agency, which, guys, this is a man who is making it happen. So if you're here now, good. This will be one of those calls that you look back on and go, okay, I learned, I remember that call forever, and I'm happy you're here. I'm happy I'm here, and I'm so happy that John's here. But if you can do me a favor, drop a JP in the chat below to show John some love. And without further ado, John, how are we doing today, brother?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm glad that you had me here, Grady. A lot of people may or may not know this, but I was very impacted. You know, after I spoke on stage, a lot of people came out, they DM'd me, and I've helped as much as possible. But when you asked me to come and talk to your team, it was you, and it was actually, it was Stephen Yee. It was those two that I spoke to. Sean Mikes in November. Myself, Andrew, and Daniel, my sons, we spoke to him over the phone. It was really nice. And I started to do my research. I was doing research. I was a free agent, right? I was looking at everywhere to go. And it was watching your channel and the impact that you put out, just getting all of the champions, because that's all we ever want. We want a champion's mindset. Every single interview you did over and over again. I think I watched 30 hours straight. I just was mesmerized, and I got to see everybody from Tyler to Harold to everybody. But it was that, and it was Stephen Yee. Those two things that I said, you know what? There's more to life than just finances. What there really is there's people. And that was the kind of people, that was the kind of organization that I want to be a part of. So absolutely, positively, anything I do to help your team and Family First Life in general, I'm here for it. I even wore my pin today, my Family First Life pin. There you go.
And you look fantastic. You know, I got a collar. I feel like, very nice shirt, but I'm massively underdressed right now in my own call.
It's okay.
So I love it. But John, you have a background and a story that didn't just start, 18 months ago, looking at the insurance business with your sons. You have, you've done very well financially. You're successful in real estate. Will you educate us a little bit on your background, what it was like, how you got there, and then at some point you go, yeah, I love my kids too, but to go want to start working 80 hours a week again, just to give them an opportunity. I mean, there's something more in you than just wanting to take care of your kids. So to back it up, how did you become you? I'd love for everyone to hear your story.
Sure. It's the number one question people ask me when they find out about me. I'm 9 years old, and it's 4 days go by, and there's absolutely no food in the fridge. And it just sounds like a story today, but there was no food in the fridge, and I was hungry. And I said, you know what? I really have to eat. My mom was a single mom. She raised 5 boys by herself. My dad came to this country with my mom and then quickly left. And so it was just us. And when I sat there, I said to myself, if I want food, I wonder where I can get food from. Well, a restaurant. So I asked an older boy in the neighborhood, hey, can you get me a job there? He was like 12 or 13 years old. His name was David Souza. And he said, I don't think so, but I just showed up anyway. And it was kind of serendipitous. I'm going to tell you this right now, Grady, I believe this more now today than anything else in the world. Your intention, I'm a very spiritual. I meditate every morning, 4:30 in the morning. Your intention is everything. And so serendipity, I walked down to the restaurant, Minelli's restaurant, Chalkstone Avenue. And the busboy, he got fired in front of my face. He got fired for doing a bad job, incompetent, doing dishes. And the owner, John Miley, looked at me and said, hey, you're here for the job? And I just went, Boom. No paperwork, nothing. I just start washing dishes. And so that year, the law, I guess, was 20 hours a week, right? So I got 2 jobs washing dishes. I got 2 paper routes. At 9 years old, my dad, he did come around a little bit. He was a comptroller for Goodyear National. So he was a CPA. So he taught me a lot. But I filed my first tax return when I was 9. I made $11,000, which was insane, right? So that kind of gets you the idea. But the really, you know what I'm really impressed with? At the top here, we started doing roll call. My brother Jerry is on this call. Now, my brother Jerry's not in insurance. He's just, he got on to support me, but I want to give massive kudos. We just did a Champions Club for Fidelity here in Cancun just last week, and it was his birthday too. It was fantastic. And so I really did I gave him his own award. I gave him the Atlas Shrugged Award because he really he shaped me from 9 years old. It was just the 4 of us. And we all took our odd jobs and we put that money together. We lived in a very suppressed area. Nobody had anything, but we put our money together. We started to buy self-help books. We started to buy How to Get Rich Quick. And so we started to watch those late infomercials like Dave Delgado and Tom Vu. And not everything worked, but what we did was that we put together $5,000. We flew my brother Jerry down to Florida. He came back with all this information. And Grady, just like the blueprint here at Family First Life, we just followed that setup. And when I was 15 years old, my eldest brother was 18. We ended up buying our first house. And we bought it for 60. We sold it for $30,000. I'm 15 years old. So now we have the taste of, but what I really do is, and today it's kind of ironic that I followed this guy way before he was the president. When I was doing that paper route, I had that paper with my brother Jason. He hits me over the shoulders in the middle of a blizzard. Our hands are freezing. And he just says, look. And on the paper, it was Donald Trump. And it said, millionaire whiz kid. I'm 9. I'm 51 today. It says, millionaire whiz kid buys another building. And he said something to me. He says, there's no difference between you and him. And I just bought it. And so I realized through everything that I went through that you have to improve it. I like what Rich Dad Poor Dad says. He says you have to join a marketing company because it's going to teach you how to get better. So I bought into getting better, and that's what it was. And so when I was 15, 16 years old, around that time, we had the pleasure to find Tony Robbins, and he influenced me to be a speed reader. So I got the Evelyn Woods, Dynamic Woods speed reading course, and I went through it. And then I came across the biography of Thomas Edison. He built the light bulb, and he said, I didn't know this. He had a paper route. So it connected with me. He was the number 11 person, I believe, to get a library card in Chicago. But the paper was on a train. The train dropped him off in Chicago. And then he came off the train. He had a library. He said he read over 10,000 books. And that's why he built the light bulb. So Grady, I said to myself, success can't be that hard. If I could read 1,000 books, I'll bet I'll be a millionaire. And so I got to book number 660. And I was a millionaire. That was it.
Wow.
Yeah. And I share with you, Mastermind, we bought into that. Everybody in the neighborhood thought we were crazy. You're wasting your time. You're a dreamer. Get rich quick doesn't work. And it all doesn't work. But I've learned something over the years. Get rich quick does work once you capture the skill required for you to get rich quick. So I made my first million by the time I was 21. I had so much. And today, I mean, just to fast forward to today, because there's so much along the way. But today, I don't have everything in the world. I'm sitting on about 37 million, living in a 10,000 square foot house, just like I told everybody there on stage. And I'm blessed. And what happened was for the last 12 years of my life, I was in golden handcuffs. I was more like I worked about 10 days a month, and I'm W-2ing about $100,000 a month. And it was my 2 sons. They come out of college and they say, there's not a lot of opportunity. We want to do what you did. And one, because I believe in opportunity. I believe in the serendipity of opportunity. I don't believe in renting. I opened a nonprofit and I help 50 families every month get into a house with no money down. My career started when I was about 17, 18 in the mortgage business. And that was all telesales, by the way. Everything I did was telesales. So this was just a shoo-in. And that's my biggest focus. And so when they said they wanted to get in business, I said, okay, we're going to go buy a building. And that's what we did. We bought this building here, 1500 Park Center Drive. And it looks like Professor X's mansion. It's about 22,000 square feet. And I did that after I hung up the phone with Shawn Mikes. I was that was the final thing on top of watching you and see and all these other great producers said, you know what, this is where it's going to be. I bought this building and I did it. And I'll tell you what's really cool is that the building, the debt ratio is so unbelievable. It takes care of itself. But I did that as a testament because I believe in this. You can all get rich, but you're going to end up someplace. What I love most about what we do here, Index Universal Life Insurance, is all I specialize in. And I know that you can sell everything, but here's my idea. Great. And I'll say it the way my son Andrew says it the best, and he's my general. He says, Dad, we could spend the time and we can learn 10,000 different kicks. We were big in martial arts when I was a kid. He goes, but instead, I think what we should do is take one kick and kick it 10,000 times, Dad, to become masters. And that's all we do. Like I have blindfolders on. That's all I do. And the thing I love about Index Universal Life Insurance is this. It's your end goal. You become an athlete. You become a superstar. You make multi-millions of dollars. How many people lose all their money because they don't know how to manage their money and they don't know a thing about investing? On top of that, how many people leave this world with their loved ones with nothing, and it just became the perfect product? I love it. These guys, the great book, Chop Wood, Carry Water, these guys have so much passion. They pulled me back in. And so, yeah, we're 80 hours a week because, death doesn't sleep, and we've got a mission, man. It's a crusade, and I'm buying into it 100%.
Death doesn't sleep. That's good.
Death does not sleep, my friend.
So, I mean, I would be repressed with not asking a few more questions about this $37 million, number you just dropped on it. So 15 to 18. So did you just get into commercial? Did you get into home? Were you flipping homes?
I was a super
as well. Yeah. But like, what did you do for the 33 years there?
I own a lot of real estate. I invest really well. I was a day trainer for a small period of time. I'm going to share this with you. My story is, when I was a kid, I used to tell people you can do it. One of my first companies, I opened a mortgage company. I was 30. I made $20 million. That was mine in 3 years, the first 3 years. I was the 5th largest correspondent lender in the state of Florida. And I'll tell you what, it wasn't the money. For me, I was always coming from that network marketing background. You want to talk about, Stephen Yee sent me a nice DM today about he missed Jim Rohn. I did too. I used to sell when I was 16 years old. We joined a network marketing company called the People's Network. Now, no one knows what this is, right? But imagine this. Imagine we have YouTube today, but there was no YouTube of the day. They were trying to be YouTube, bringing Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, bringing Brian Tracy into your home via satellite. So I'm selling that product, but I'm really getting into the self-help. And so I realized back then, I used to tell people all the time, you can do it. And I'll be very candid with you. You can't do it. Nobody actually wants to do the work involved. What I do is I try to get everyone transparently to understand that the one thing we have to kill is you. Because if I meet you wherever you are and you're meeting me because you want more, I became a life coach at livepassevent.com. I charge people $4,000 here at the Flamingo Crossing. They'll come for 2 days, 16 hours, but it's really an upsell program. I charge you $10,000 a month for 6 months, but I guarantee you to be a millionaire. So here in Orlando, there's people walking out. Travis Wilson, a good friend of mine, making millions of dollars, people that I've trained and coached. But what it is, I'm very specific. I can't talk to you unless you make over $250,000 a year, because you have to have a base mindset. Because if I take a person that let's just say is a burger flipper, right? The likelihood that person's going to be a millionaire next year, very low. There's that small percentage. So not everyone can do it unless, this is the unless they're willing to trade off literally everything else to focus on that. And I shared a good meeting with these guys, and I talked about, and I know you asked a question about what I invest in, how I got there, but the biggest thing is I invest most into my mind. So Stephen Covey is the best. Stephen Covey talks about the different quadrants. And if you don't know 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, old book, blow dust off it. He talks about quadrant 2. And gang, quadrant 2 is where I live. Quadrant 2, everything in quadrant 2 is important, but not urgent, right? So what's quadrant 1? Something that's urgent. You're driving to work, your tire goes flat. You got to deal with that. That's in your face. That's quadrant 1. It's an emergency. It's in your face. You got to do it. Then there's things that are important, stuff you got to do for the day. Sell, income producing activities. That's a different quadrant, quadrant 3. But on quadrant 2 is where the things are important, but they're not urgent. And that's the stuff people don't do. So Grady, what I really have done is I live in that quadrant. I'm always living in the place of planning, in the place of future. I'm always living in that quadrant. And that's why I've gotten success. I like patterns. I like the book Great Expectations. There's patterns and then cycles that go over and over again. So while everybody's heading towards the door, I love market crashes. I love market recessions. That's what I'm buying. I love it. And that's the number one thing I've done to become wealthy, because what we sell in the IUL, the rule of 72, every 7 years, your money will double. That's going to happen in real estate the most. So to truly get wealthy for everybody here, you have to own real estate. Let me tell you something that I champion. What I champion, how I make millionaires here today at Family First Life. And I think that we'll have our first set of real millionaires, the first set of guys that came to Champions Club with me, those 6 gentlemen, 9 really. I think that between this year and next year, they'll become bona fide millionaires, and they weren't beforehand, because here's why. You've got to make $30,000 a month in net. You got to follow the rules. You've got to have your expenses. I go extreme. Your expenses should be 10%. That's your expenses. I'm talking about personal expenses. I'm talking about after you're done making your IP, after chargebacks, you're netting at least $30,000 from your business. Now, as a salesperson of insurance, I have 30. I pay my bills at 3,000. I have $27,000 left. You've got to save that for 2 years straight so that you can buy 4 greenhouses. Monopoly was real. 4 greenhouses, and then you upgrade to a red hotel. And here's how 4 greenhouses work. And it's funny, right? Well, I'm in lending. Well, check this out. Well, Grady, I don't know how much real estate you have, but if I start buying houses for you, I'm your mortgage broker. When we get to the 4th house, it's a funny thing. When we go to the 1003 application, the residential application, it says how many properties you own. Did you know the second I put down 5 houses for you? Now, lending's changed, guidelines have changed, but the second I put the 5th house down for you, everything changes, Grady. You become an investor now. You get investor rates. You got to put 20, 30, 40% down. They treat you different. So Monopoly, Hasbro Brothers was so right. 4 greenhouses. You get to live in one, you get to get 3, and it's cool. You're under the radar. Nobody knows who you are. Then you have 4 greenhouses. You wait, you let it bake 7 to 10 years. Everything doubles. You take the equity from those properties and you purchase. I'll give you this example. This building, I'm sitting in $6 million. I needed $854,000 to buy the building. All I did was look at the recipe. And I did this as a testament to show these guys out here, my office here, all my guys are out there right now. As a testament, I showed them step by step how it worked. And normally you would have to liquidate 4 houses in order to get that red hotel, but we entered COVID. So the houses that I bought before COVID for 300 and 400, they're doubled. They're 6, 8. I only need to liquidate 2 properties. I get $854,000. Those properties still cash flow. I take that $854,000 and I buy that commercial building. Now I want to say something to you. A lot of systems out there sell real estate cash flow building. I'm not selling that because let me tell you the flaw. I tried doing just that. Real estate, other than taxes, the benefits you get from taxes, the cash flow from real estate, it's actually very nominal. You have to have a tremendous portfolio in order to live off of real estate. So what I've learned, and I don't know everything, I don't teach you what I've done. What I've done is made sure that I got myself in the highest income earning position I could be in, and then take that wealth and never stop that. One of my wealth advisors, Kobe Winslow with Creative Planning. He's my fiduciary. And I met him through reading Tony Robbins' book, Money. And I fired a bunch over the years. Great guy here in Orlando. All of the athletes and superstars and Windermere, the guy's it, right? He's got more letters behind his name than anything else. But I believe in paying for professionals. And one of the things he shared with me over the years, as I'm sitting there and I'm making these good amounts of money. And I'm like, but I'm not like your other clients. He would always tell me back then, he would say, cash isn't king, John. Cash flow is king. So you could never stop the cash flow. We could never stop the drip. We could never stop doing active work. And I'll tell you this, for everybody listening who's actually in this to try to make money and stop, that's your first lie. There's no such thing as stop. If every single one of us, Grady, said to our heart, you know what? I'm just going to work really hard. I'm going to get this. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to get the girl. I'm going to buy the building. I'm going to become a NASA rocket scientist. And then we could stop. Then we just take a break. Ask your heart to take a break. That's your last day. So that's the first fallacy. And people don't realize that retirement was a lie that was made by a guy back in the day because you were digging his tunnel. You were mining for coal. And they said you were exhausted. You were tired. You did it for 30 years. He says, hey, Grady, you do this 10 more years for me, man, I'll get you set up for life. You die of lung cancer before it happens. Here's my point. That's the first lie. We could never stop. The day you decide that, it's literally telling your heart to stop. But and I've done it. So I made it and I semi-retired, and there's only so much vacation you can do. There's only so much. And then the people you love that maybe not doing as well as you, there's only so much you can do. So what I ended up doing was this opportunity for me, going to truly the one book everyone should have is The Gospel of Wealth by Andrew Carnegie. And he literally, he impacted me so much because this all happened at the same time, right? We had, for me, Shaquille O'Neal did the Def Jam comedy special. And he said that his comedian, if you're 40 years old, you've only got 20 good summers left. What are you going to do with it? And he said, damn, that's a check. What am I going to do? He opened a nonprofit. Mark Wahlberg opened a nonprofit. And I looked at my life. I said, what's my greatest value? I can't stand to see people rent. It's the biggest waste of money. Spend $1,000, $2,000 a month, $3,000 a month on rent. It's the biggest waste. So I said, I had the skill set. And over my whole life, I was such a successful mortgage broker. Over my whole life, it was always a family member or a friend. Grady, I believe this. When you're a matriarch, you're the matriarch of your family. So you have a bunch of people asking you for money. They don't need money. They need education. So every time I would get a family member, friend in need, they'd say, hey, I need money. Why? Well, I'm getting foreclosed. I'm getting evicted. Why? Well, if I give them money, no, I'm just going to be a bank and I'm never going to get payback. It's going to affect our relationship. So I give them education. So what I started to do, every time somebody asked me for money because they were hurting financially, it was usually because they were renting, and I taught them how to buy a house with no money down. They pay for an appraisal. So that was my nonprofit. And that's what I did. I started that nonprofit. It's PinedaAcademy.com, and we help 50 families every month get into a house, no money down, because that was the highlight of my career. And it's interesting because during my career doing mortgages, I overlooked it. It was a hassle for me to help somebody get a house, no money down, because there's no money in it. And I'm sitting here trying to just make business. And at the end of my life, I look at the quiet moments. It's what's mattered the most. So that's what I've done. But to answer the question, I've always made I've focused so well on being such a closer that selling for me is just like a faucet. It just, the money just pours out. And then this was the next step. I had to be a good steward of cash. So all those lessons my dad's trying to teach me at 9 and 11 and 16 about literally financials, cash flow, retained earnings, balance sheets, none of that stuff was making sense at the time. And now I realize that's the most important gate. So for everybody here that's new, even if you've been here for a while, I talked to a lot of people at the convention, successful people. And it's interesting to me how few people own. If you're here and you've been here for a while and the insurance business has been good to you, guys, get to own. You got to buy. You got to buy real estate, period. Because no matter what happens to the economy, we go to Bitcoin or Apples or fiat money. Think about it. They're going to pay you. That's why you're called the Lord of the land. You're the landlord. They got to pay you. So if it's Bitcoin, Apples, or fiat, I'm going to take it. Right. So, and that's the reality, but that's it. So, once you get to the habit of buying 4 houses and then flipping it to a commercial real estate building, it's forget about it, Grady. It's game over. And the truth is, the rich get richer. Think about this. For everybody who hears my voice right now that's renting your apartment or house, every single one of you just experienced a yearly increase. So think about it. Average person spends $2,000 on rent. Then it goes up 10% a year, at least 3 to 10%. So let's say you're paying $2,200 the next year or $2,400 the next year. Think about this. If they just bought a house, tax and insurance all in, that house would have been maybe $1,800 a month, same person. And that rent payment is going to stay that payment for the next 30 years. So you see, these crashes only affect the poor, and these crashes make the rich richer. So to answer your question, make a tremendous amount of money and keep buying real estate responsibly, prudently. Make sure the numbers work. Make sure you understand the real estate. And that's truly how you make the game. But step one is you have to have a skill set to make a tremendous amount of money. And that's what I've done.